Notice the way he says it. Such wilt thou be to me, who like the other foot must obliquely run. I got to make my circle. Thy firmness, you root me in some way, makes my circle just complete and makes me end where I begun. A poetic way to simply say what? I'll be back. I'm not going anywhere. And technically, I never leave anyway if you're talking about my mind, which is the thing you're actually in love with, not my body. Of course, what's really interesting about this, and let's jump now to 2a, what's really interesting about this poem is that many interpreters to this poem pointed out it can be read on two levels, which makes this a brilliant poem. One, obviously it's one of the great love poems of all time. It challenges people who are falling in love to ask, am I falling in love with this individual's body? Wow, she's hot. Wow, he's great looking. Or am I falling in love with that person's mind? Because what do we know about that person's body? What did we learn in our study of Sonnet 116? Everything sags and bags. That drop-dead gorgeous body someday will not be drop-dead gorgeous. It'll just be drop-dead. See how that works? See how that works? In other words, if you fall in love with body, sooner or later, you're going to have to fall out of love because bodies go away. If you fall in love with mind, however, then there's a whole different understanding and calculus of love. Love then transcends the physical. That is to say, metaphysical. You got me? So that's one rendering of this poem. It's a love poem. But wait, there's a second rendering of the poem. How does the poem begin? How does the poem begin? Go back and look at it again. As virtuous men pass mildly away. Now this is a poem about, a way to read the poem, not about love, but about life and death. In other words, what happens when someone dies? Well, if you think of that someone as a body, then obviously that person is dead, gone. But if you think of that somebody as something other than a body, that is to say, a mind or a soul, well, that individual is not dead because you can't kill the soul. You can't kill the mind. In other words, this argument can be read that this poem is going to suggest that there is no reason to fear death because the soul cannot be killed, which is of course going to be a devoutly religious idea that John Donne would have completely agreed with. When we get, for example, to Holy Sonnet 10, we'll see the same idea played out again. Let's talk really quickly now at levels 2b. Obviously, we've mentioned already a number of important ideas. Let's just jot down what for you is the most important conceit here. Some people have said, I'll never forget that notion of love as a compass again in my life. Every time from here on out I ever see a compass, I immediately am going to think about this poem and the whole idea about love. Some students really like this idea of gold, that there's different forms of gold. There's that ball of gold, and then when you heat it up, it flattens, but it's still gold. That heated up is called refining. That heated up is called challenges. That heated up from Sonnet 116 is called the storm, the tempest. In other words, you know true love when it goes through the fire. It will change the form, but the substance will remain the same if it's true love. Some students say that is a compelling word picture. That is a metaphor or a simile that works for me. Let's jump to 3a. Relationship to other titles. Obviously, you've already written it down, John Donne's Song. Jot down really quickly one comparison you can make between those two poems. What is for you the relationship between Valediction Forbidding Mourning, where he says to his girl, don't be sad, I've got to go away, but we're like a compass, don't worry, I'm coming back. And his poem Song, where he says, hey, stop with the crying. When you cry, it's somehow like you're killing a part of me. Don't do it anymore, right? You can see lots of similarities between those two. Let's keep going. What is for you your favorite poem about the return of two people in love? What is for you your favorite poem about love, other than this one? What's your favorite song of love? Do you have a song that you listen to because it celebrates love? What's your favorite movie of love? Think about the movies that have love in them that often include journey or separation. So that sitting at the very heart of the movie is the idea that you have two people in love, but they're not physically together. They are forced to be separated from each other, right? So, for example, we've recently shared conversations about the Lord of the Rings film. Think about the way the love affair in that film has something to do with the fact that throughout most of those 3 films, the 2 lovers are not physically together, but find themselves in scenes in that film together through flashbacks. Yes? Right? The idea, in other words, that love can overcome space and time. Let's jump to 3B really quickly. Do you believe in this idea of the soulmate? Do you believe in the idea that 2 people could love each other's minds? I try and have these arguments and conversations with my freshmen. They do not buy it. And I tell them, 100 days before my seniors graduate, 2 beautiful bodies can go out into the Badlands and spend all night, and all they do all night long is talk. That's all they do. And my freshmen don't believe it. No way, no way. Why? Because freshmen only think that love is about the bodies. Yes? They cannot believe that by the time you become a senior, you're more interested in sharing words and ideas than in just sharing bodies. My freshmen can't buy it. Why? They're young, they're immature. My seniors, however, understand this concept. As we get closer to graduation, and we start to kind of recognize this is the last times I get to spend time with some of these people, sharing ideas, sharing thoughts, sharing our lives together. And it makes it a very special kind of experience in the senior year to begin to kind of mature in one's understanding of relationships, of love. Well, there you go, an introduction to a valediction forbidding mourning and mathematics and poetics. Thank you.